All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us for our first virtual field trip of the fall season. We are going to be talking about the fall changes that we've seen here at Oxbow. So my name is Jess, and you are joining me from Oxbow Nature Study Area in Reno, Nevada. We are located right along the Truckee River, which you can kind of see in the frame a little bit, but you'll see our bank right here with plenty of trees, and we have lots of wildlife here in the area. And lately, we've been seeing a few fall changes around the area. If any of you have noticed, we've been getting cooler mornings and cooler evenings as well. And we've totally been experiencing that here at Oxbow. We also even found a little bit of frost on the ground this morning on our grassy area up at the front of the park. Another change that we've been noticing is the changing colors of our leaves. So up along the bank here, we have our Fremont Cottonwoods. Fremont Cottonwoods love living near water and in these riparian zones. A riparian zone is right along a riverway or a waterway, and it's really, really moist. So our cottonwoods love that sort of habitat. They are known for these triangular shaped leaves, and you'll see these leaves right here have changed their color. So during the fall time, our Fremont Cottonwoods will change their color, and they're going to then drop their leaves. This one just kind of fell off of the tree, but soon all of the leaves will drop off of those trees. Now, why might a tree want to drop their leaves? The first reason is these leaves, they have one really important function for our trees, and that's to create energy for the tree to grow. And during the winter time, they're just not very efficient at that. So they'll suck up all the nutrients from those leaves, and then they'll drop them because they're not going to use them over the winter time. These leaves also have a lot of water in them, and it gets really, really cold up here in northern Nevada. And if a leaf has a lot of water in it and it starts to get below freezing really regularly, it's going to damage that leaf and make it not work very well. So to protect itself for the winter time, our trees are going to drop some of those leaves. Now, not all trees and shrubs drop their leaves, but the ones that do, they're called deciduous trees. The other type of tree and shrub is an evergreen, and those types of plants have their leaves year-round. One of the important plants that we have all over Nevada that I'm sure many of you have seen are our sagebrush shrubs. Sagebrush is our state flower, but they are also considered to be evergreen, and they have leaves on them throughout the year. This is really important to a lot of our different animals. Animals like pygmy rabbits, sage grouse, and antelope, they all rely on sagebrush in order to feed themselves throughout the year. Other animals like mule deer that you'll see on your screen, they also rely on sagebrush for the winter time, because a lot of the plants that they're eating throughout the summer months, they die off and they don't have those nice, beautiful green leaves throughout the winter time. But because sagebrush has leaves all year round, they're able to take advantage of that as a food source. So sagebrush is really, really important to a lot of our animals that we have here in the area. We do have some sagebrush in the park here, but most of the sagebrush that you'll find is a little bit farther away from waterways, like the Truckee River. So not only are we noticing changes in our plants that we're seeing around here, I'll step out of the camera really quick. You can kind of see down the lane, all of those cottonwoods, you see some of them are starting to change. We also notice a lot of changes in our animals. So one of the first animals we'll talk about is our black bear. And right now, our black bears have changed their behavior to prepare for winter. And they do this during the fall every year. This period of time is called hyperphagia. And hyperphagia basically just means that they have increased their appetite and they're eating as much food as they possibly can. A black bear here in Nevada can eat up to 25,000 calories in a single day. That equates to about 80 McDonald's cheeseburgers. So they have to eat a lot of food right now. During the fall time, you'll notice them coming down to lower elevations like the Reno area in search of lots of food that they can eat. whether that be some fruit from fruit trees that we have in our backyards, maybe pet food that's been left out, or bird seed. They're trying to take advantage of as many different food sources that can give them as many calories as possible. That's why during this time of year, it's really important that we make sure that anything that a black bear can eat stays away from them, because we don't want them to become dependent on us for a food source. A lot of our black bears, they're super, super smart. So they'll learn when trash day is, and they'll come through our neighborhoods the morning of trash pickup before anyone's awake and see if they can get some of those delicious snacks that might be lingering in our trash. A bear's superpower is really their sense of smell. So they're following their nose to whatever smells good. They can actually smell up to 10 miles away, which is really impressive. So if you have maybe thrown out some chocolate cake that wasn't super good or maybe spoiled a little bit, that black bear can smell that chocolate cake. It's going to smell the sugar and the cocoa and the flour and the delicious butter and all of that and be attracted to that. But if you eat a lot of chocolate cake, you're going to get a really bad tummy ache, and so will a bear. That's why it's really important to make sure that they're not getting access to that food source. So why is the bear eating all this food? Well, during the winter time, black bears will hibernate, and that means they'll go into a den and sleep for most of the winter. Other animals also go through phases of hyperphagia in order to prepare for winter as well, and this is all during the fall time. Another animal that is currently really busy taking advantage of this beautiful fall weather is the beaver. So over here we have Cornelius. He is our North American beaver, and he was about 45 pounds when he was alive. And beavers, they do a few different adaptations in order to prepare for winter. The first one is just like the black bear. They're going to go through a little period of hyperphagia, so that increased appetite, where they're eating as much food as they can in order to pack on the pounds to survive the winter. Beavers will also cache their food, and that means that they're going to take branches from willows, maybe some cottonwoods, bark, and they're going to take it down, collect as much as they possibly can, and they're going to put it down at the bottom of their beaver ponds. And that beaver pond is going to act like a little refrigerator so that they have food all winter long. And beavers don't live alone, so they have a whole family to take care of. Here at Oxbow, we have anywhere from 4 to 6 beavers, maybe a little more, but I for sure have seen 4 in our beaver pond. So they're going to have to take care of all of those beavers throughout the winter time. So they're going to be cutting down those willows and putting them down at the bottom of their pond to make sure that they have a food source all winter long. And beavers, they are herbivores, so they're eating lots of plants. And you can kind of see right here on my beaver skull, they have really flat teeth in the back, and those help them to grind down all that delicious plant material that they're trying to eat, whether that be a willow or a cottonwood or a cattail. That's going to help them to chew it down. And beavers are also known for cutting down lots of big trees. And they have these really large incisors right here that help them to do that. Those front teeth, they'll continue to grow throughout a beaver's lifetime, and they can grow up to 4 feet every single year. So they have to continually chop down wood and eat lots of kind of hard, rough things to make sure that those teeth don't grow too much. They're really well adapted to cutting down trees because of this iron coating on the front of their teeth. That is basically an iron coating and keeps those front teeth nice and strong. And you'll notice those back teeth don't have that iron coating. So when you're looking at a stump or a log, you'll notice that it kind of comes to a teardrop point because basically those teeth act like little chisels. Beavers, unlike the bear, do not hibernate, so they have to have a way to stay nice and warm when they're swimming around their beaver ponds throughout the winter time. So they have 2 layers of fur. This first layer right here is kind of coarse. That is their outer layer, their guard hairs, and those help to keep them nice and dry. So they'll use those hairs, and then they also have a little gland near their bum called the castor gland, and it produces an oil, and they'll wipe that all over their fur to keep them nice and waterproof, just like your waterproof jacket would. Underneath, they have a really nice, soft, downy layer of fur. So it's super, super soft and super, super dense. And that kind of acts like a down jacket would for us. It traps all of the heat that's coming off their body and keeps them nice and warm. So when they're in the water swimming around, maybe on a snowy day, they can stay nice and dry and nice and warm. Another animal that will cache its food for the wintertime are squirrels. You'll often see squirrels running around a tree, maybe with some nuts or something in their mouth. They'll go and they'll hide those so that they can use them later in the year. Woodpeckers are also known for doing that behavior. Not here in Nevada, but in California, they have acorn woodpeckers, and acorn woodpeckers will put acorns kind of all up in a tree. They'll make little holes and cache their food that way so that they can use it later in the season. Now, not all of our wildlife sticks around year-round. Some of it will migrate. The first bird that we'll talk about that migrates is the osprey. An osprey is a bird of prey. So that means that it eats meat. And birds of prey, they have a couple things all in common. First up, they have this nice sharp hooked beak that helps them to eat their meat that they are able to catch. They also have really good eyesight because they're flying up in the air trying to hunt for other animals to eat. So they need really keen, good eyesight in order to find their food. They also have talons. This is not from an osprey, it's from a red-tailed hawk, but these talons are really sharp, long nails that help them to grip their prey items. Osprey are known for eating lots of fish. About 99% of their diet is fish-based. So they need to have nice big pools of water where they can go and hunt and find a food source. So during the wintertime, in Reno especially, it gets pretty chilly and a lot of our ponds will kind of freeze over at some points. So it doesn't make the best habitat for an animal that's eating mainly fish. So our osprey will move and they will migrate down to places like South America in order to spend the winter where they'll have more food sources throughout the winter time. So right now our osprey are starting to migrate away from the area, but hopefully they'll be back soon to have some more osprey in the area. They do nest here along the Truckee River quite regularly. Another one that you might be really familiar with that migrates is the Canada goose. In Reno, we do have year-round residents that are Canada geese, so not all of them migrate, but some of them do. And so if you look up in the sky and you hear some honking, maybe when you're out at recess, and you see a bunch of birds flying in a V formation, it's probably some Canada geese making their way down south for winter. Again, the reason why they do that is just to beat the cold weather, make sure that they have plenty of food resources throughout the winter time. But we do have them here still because it doesn't get really too cold for them. So some of them do like to stay in the area. Another critter that you might not think about that migrates is the bat. Some of our bats in Nevada will migrate. In Nevada, we have 23 different species. So all of these different species have different ways to adapt to the winter time. But our Mexican free-tailed bat, they will come to Nevada during the summer and the spring and summer, and they will have their pups, so they're babies. And then during the winter time, it gets too cold and there isn't enough food for them. So they will migrate and go back down to South America or the southern United States where it doesn't get snowy and really cold. Our Mexican free-tailed bats, they are insectivores. So they're eating lots and lots of insects. And during the winter time, all of that kind of goes away for them. They don't have a lot of food resources. So instead of hibernating like maybe a bear would or other bat species, they go all the way, they make a really long journey and leave us for a while. During the springtime, the females will come back to Reno and they will have their pups. And then once those pups start to be able to fly, they'll start to feed themselves and eat all of the little critters that we have flying around our Truckee River, like mosquitoes and moths and other insects like that. There are other bats like the yellow bat that will hibernate, and bats can hibernate in many different locations. Some of them will find a nice little cave that has a constant temperature so that it's not getting too cold or too hot for them. Other ones will hibernate maybe in some tree bark. Just depends on the type of bat and what their favorite habitat is. So everyone right now is really preparing for winter, trying to make sure that they are going to be all set with either their food resources or their favorite habitats, or they're just getting out of the area, going down to South America and enjoying some nice hot weather. So does anyone have any questions on some of the critters that we just talked about?
So far, we've got no questions.
Okay, perfect. Julie, what is your favorite adaptation that animals do for fall time?
Oh man, I don't know. Hibernating, I think hibernation is just really interesting. And wouldn't it be nice to just like take some time off for a couple months, relax, sleep, and get to eat a bunch of food beforehand?
That does sound pretty great, but also spending the winter on like a nice beach somewhere where it's nice and warm also sounds pretty magical.
Oh, you're right. It's so hard to choose.
I also think caching food is really interesting. The fact that they find all these little places to like hide food and hoard it for the winter time. It's how I kind of feel like I am with my freezer at times.
You're a cacher.
I am. I definitely am a cacher. Making all the soup. Awesome. Well, if anyone comes up with any amazing questions and you think of them later at recess or whatever, feel free to tell your teacher, and they have my email so they can email them to me. But thank you so much for hanging out with me for this brief little field trip out here to Oxbow. Really appreciate it. And next time we will be talking about different types of hibernation, because there isn't just one type. Bats and bears, they all have different types of hibernation. So we hope to see you there. Have a good day, everyone.